Hi everyone, I'm Amanda Mann and this is Simply Eatable, and today I'm actually going to show you guys one of my favorite cookie recipes. It is a modified version of like an oatmeal chocolate chip cookie, but I've changed it to make it paleo, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Let me show you what we have. I've got almond butter, applesauce, an egg. This is baking soda, salt, cinnamon, vanilla, melted coconut oil. However, you just need it softened. It doesn't necessarily have to be melted. Coconut flour, coconut flakes, and chocolate chips. Now, these chocolate chips are not technically paleo because they do have cane sugar in them. They're the Enjoy Life brand, which I absolutely love. However, you can substitute with any other chocolate that you'd like. So let's get started. So the first things first, we've got to add in the almond butter and the applesauce, and these two things need to get creamed really well. One thing I didn't mention with the almond butter, I use an unsalted almond butter, which you can always substitute. If you can't do almonds, you can always substitute sunflower seed butter or sun butter, and if you can do seeds. And that will turn your baked goods a little bit purplish, greenish kind of, but it's still really, really good. Now I'm going to mix my egg in and my coconut oil and my vanilla. If you cannot do egg, you could always substitute for part of a banana or more applesauce. However, I do like the egg because I like the texture that it gives. But again, if you can't do egg or you're completely vegan, then by all means, there's definitely some substitutions. Or if you can tolerate flax. Okay, so at this point, I like to add the salt, the cinnamon, and the baking soda, and mix that in before I put in the coconut flour. Okay, so the reason why I wait until almost the very end to do the coconut flour is because coconut flour is very tricky. I have made this recipe so many times, but if I change the brand of coconut flour that I use, the consistency comes out different every single time. So what I highly recommend is, I've got 1/3 of a cup here. I'll put about half of it in there. And then if it's still pretty wet, then I'll add more. So that way, I don't have to overcompensate by adding more liquid if my coconut flour tends to be a little bit more absorbent this time around. So I've got about half of it in here. And the reason why I do that is because if it is too absorbent and you end up adding a little extra applesauce, or you could even add, a non-dairy milk or whatever in there to give it a little bit more moisture. Sometimes the cookies end up being a little bit too sticky and moist when they come out, rather than like a soft cookie, if that makes sense. So I can already tell my coconut flour is a lot more absorbent than usual. So this is about the consistency that you want. Because here's what's going to happen. To give my cookies the consistency of the oatmeal raisin, I use shredded coconut. Now, if you're like me and you have a small child that distracts you constantly while you're trying to go grocery shopping, I have ended up getting flaked coconut or coconut flakes rather than the shredded coconut many times, which is kind of frustrating. However, I figured out that if you put it in your blender and pulse it a little bit, it comes out similar enough to where you don't have to, you know, waste your coconut flakes. Unless, of course, you have another recipe you can use coconut flakes for. Okay, so let's go ahead and mix this in. And remember, the coconut, the coconut is absorbent as well. So, all right. So now I might actually add a little bit more flour, but we're going to add the chocolate chips. And I'm going to add a little bit more flour because it still seems to be, actually that's almost the whole thing. Okay, that's good. So if you can see that, that is the right consistency. Got this great, have this great cake batter here. It's not a cake, it's a cookie. Okay, and I do have a pan with some parchment paper on it. These do not have any added sugar other than the sugar in the natural sweetener in the applesauce and the sugar that's in the chocolate chips. Now, if you decide to use chocolate chips or carob chips that have no sugar added, you can always use, and you can always add honey or maple syrup or some sort of unprocessed sugar to add some sweetness to these, because these are not overly sweet. All right, we're going to put these in the oven for about 10 minutes, and we'll see how they turn out. Okay guys, my chocolate chip cookies are done. And one of the things that I actually forgot to mention before was the coconut flakes, the shredded coconut is actually an optional ingredient. I just really like coconut, and I think it gives these a really nice texture and flavor. So these smell amazing. They're not overly sweet. So if you're looking for a cookie that is like a true sweet cookie, this might not be the one for you. So, it's super moist. And the egg definitely fluffs it up a bit, which is really nice. They're so good. And the chocolate chips give it just enough of that sweetness that it's perfect. So good. I hope you like the recipe. I'd love to hear your feedback, and subscribe for more recipes, and I'll see you next time.